Live in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the All Ball Podcast. It is Thursday, February 10th. On this episode, we will be discussing everything to do with the Super Bowl. We will dive into the game and our predictions. Next, we will discuss how these teams got here and what makes them special. After that, we will continue to address the NBA trade deadline, as that was today at 3 p.m., and we'll give our reaction to any breaking news, including the Harden and Simmons blockbuster trade. Lastly, we will be covering the biggest stories from this week around sports. I am your host, Joseph Shelton, here with my co-host,
Leighton Shocker. Let's go.
This is the All Ball Podcast. Welcome, everybody. So, it's finally here. The Super Bowl this Sunday.
Woohoo!
I'm
You know what
excited.
time it starts? Is it like 7, hopefully?
5.
Good thing I work till 6.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to be on the... So, we have a ski race this weekend, and the race gets over... So, it's in Duluth, and I'm down here in Madison. The race gets over at like 4. So, I was able to convince our director that a bunch of us are going to stop at like a bar or a Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever on the way home, and we're going to watch the game. So,
Yeah, that's pretty
that's a
sweet.
good thing.
This should be a fun time, bro. That's
Yeah,
dope.
well, we're going to get home super late, but it should be fun.
Dude, that always happens. Monday, you're probably going to have half the students in there. Half the students in your class anyway, so might as well join them.
It is what
that's
it is.
Cool. So one thing I want to mention about this that I've just been thinking of is what I really find interesting about the Super Bowl matchup is both organizations have showed you there's 2 ways to build championship caliber teams. So the Rams are kind of notorious for having like unlimited cap space, right? Where they just sidewipe the money into whatever it is, signing bonuses and extended contracts and stuff. So they've just been playing with the cap for years now. But you look at it, they made the Super Bowl, I think 3 seasons ago. I want to say.
Yeah, 2. Well, yeah, but yeah,
it was
3 technically.
Yeah, I think it was 3.
Counting this one.
Yeah. And they didn't think it was good enough. They didn't win it. They couldn't beat New England, and they didn't think it was good enough. So they've been moving their pieces and some of their key pieces as well. They traded their quarterback, their number 1 overall pick, and upgraded.
Yeah.
And so they've been playing around with making trades, spending big money on big stars, and now they're here playing at home in the Super Bowl. Whereas the Bengals, you look at it, they've been one of the worst. I think they might have the worst record over the last 2 seasons in the NFL. So they've gone along the lines of the complete retool and rebuild through the draft kind of mindset, where they've just hit on so many people.
Right, and they hit where it really matters.
Right.
You know?
Right.
They hit a quarterback, and they hit a wide receiver, and they didn't draft a pass rusher, but Aiden Hutchinson was a good free agent pickup. So, or not Aiden Hutchinson. Oh my gosh, let's do it. Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, he was on my mind because I saw him at
from the Saints, I think, right?
Yeah, from the Saints.
So that just goes to show that there's multiple ways to build championship rosters in this league, which I find really, really interesting.
Right.
And I think it's good for the sport because you look at it like just as an example. So you can build through free agency and trades. The Jags, I think, have the most cap space, or they're up there for the most cap space.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, they've been doing decently well drafting as of recent. So it goes to show that teams can just flip their entire trajectory after 1-2 years of mediocrity. And so that's exciting for all these franchises that seemingly have like no end goal in sight and no hope in their franchise. I'm just using the Jags as an example. Whereas in
Right.
2 years from now, depending on how well they do in either one or both, would be even better through the draft or free agency, that they might be able to bump themselves into Super Bowl contention. So I think that's interesting and cool for the
Right. Yeah,
sport.
you get the coach right and you get the quarterback right, and it kind of all seems to fall into place. It's interesting how that works. So yeah, no, I'm super hyped for this game. I think we mentioned this already. Like, if either team wins, I'll be happy. I'll be happy no matter what.
Oh,
I
I'm
love the
dude,
Bengals. I love Joe Burrow. He's such a good story. Like, he's impossible not to like. Matthew Stafford, kind of a redemption story. Finally got out of Detroit.
there's
Now in
so
his
many
first
good
year in Los Angeles,
storylines.
it's the
So many
Super
good
Bowl.
storylines.
Right. And it comes, this is a crazy stat for you. So Joe Burrow is the fastest number one overall pick quarterback to ever get to the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford is the longest number one overall. So, like, with getting to one,
No,
obviously,
right. So people that
between
didn't
being drafted
obviously
and
aren't
getting to
on the
one,
list, but
he's the
no, that's
longest.
cool. That's cool.
Mhm.
And on top of that, so last year, there's another cool stat, is last year was the oldest combined coaching
Oh, yeah.
total, just
This year's the
between years of
youngest.
experience, and this year completely flip flopped and is the youngest ever.
Uh,
And so that's kind of just like, there's so much stuff that can happen in the NFL. There's
yeah.
so many different factors that go into things. So many, you just never know
No.
what to expect, and that's why I think it's the best league.
Oh, it's the by
Best
far. There's
league.
so much parity. The Bengals were last in their division last year, and now they're in the Super Bowl. Like, 1 year
Yeah.
makes such a difference. There's so much parity. So the biggest thing that jumps out to me when I think about this game is the Rams have just dudes everywhere, right? They have, you can just go down the list: Matthew Stafford, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Andrew Whitworth, Cooper Kupp. They just have dudes everywhere. Um, Now they have Leonard Floyd. Now they
Yeah.
added Von Miller. Like, they just have guys everywhere. The Bengals have talent, like, don't get me wrong, but it's just not to that level, and they're, well, not as
No,
established,
their
right? They're a
their
really young
talent's
roster.
definitely more spaced out through the team, and I do think that they peak at some positions a little bit higher than the Rams. Just as examples, like at safety, you could argue at quarterback they have the advantage. Obviously, kicker, which you look at it, this postseason's actually been
Mattered a lot.
very
Mattered a
valuable
lot.
for teams. Like running back, you could say. So it's like the Bengals have some stars that have a higher potential and a higher ceiling than some of the Rams players, but the Rams are just full everywhere.
Oh yeah, they got dude, they got guys everywhere you look. So that's pretty
And
impressive. So I think a lot of people are leaning heavily towards, like, the Rams in this game. Like, some people, I've heard people suggesting now today all of a sudden that it might be a blowout. What's crazy though is the spread has come down. So I think it was at four
yeah,
and a half at the beginning of this week. Now it's down to 3.5. Like,
I know. I
people really
think
believe in Joe Burrow, dude.
I think
People really believe in Joe Burrow.
when the matchup was determined 2 weeks ago, I think it started up at 5. And so
Was
it's
it?
come, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it's come down to it.
So that
That's
goes,
crazy. That's a lot of points to come down.
no, that
A
goes to
point and a
show. I
half?
mean,
That's a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
and here's my question. So let's just say that the Rams weren't at home. They were just in a neutral field wherever this year.
Yeah.
You think that the spread would still be 0.5? Like, that just doesn't seem right, right? Like, they,
3.5?
no, do you think, or because you
Oh.
get the 3 points for being at
Oh, yeah.
home,
I don't
do you
think I
think
don't
that
think that's really
factors
relevant
into
anymore.
their,
I think that used to be more relevant than it is. I don't think they'd necessarily give teams an automatic 3 points for being at home anymore.
well, okay, so let's just say that's been kind of the rule of thumb. So the Rams are
Right.
getting a couple points at least for being at home, I
Maybe.
would
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
Let's just say they weren't at home. Do you think that it would be down to like 1.5, where it's basically just a picket game?
No, honestly, I think no matter where it's played, it would be about 3.5 Rams.
Okay.
I think that's a good
It's
line.
a
I think 5 was really high. I even
I,
think 4 was pretty high. I
it
think
is a
three and
good
a half
line.
is about right.
Yeah, it's going to be
Um,
very, very hard to pick like if you're going on the Rams, it's going to be very hard to pick for the
yeah.
Bengals to cover there because it's just such a small margin.
Yeah,
But
but
we've
you
seen
got
a lot of walk-offs and a
a
lot
lot
of
of games have come down to field goals. A lot of games in the playoffs have come down to field goals. So I don't I don't know about that. Even the last game the Rams played. Actually, the last two the Rams played.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, it'll be interesting.
So,
Rams
no,
got
it's
some people
cool.
on the injury report. So, uh, Daryl Henderson, running back, is on the injured reserve still. Robert Woods is on injured reserve. Tyler Higbee is questionable with that MCL tear
Yeah,
or strain.
I don't know. I think both of them were just strains.
Okay.
Both
Cam
the tight
Akers is
ends.
also on the injury report, questionable, and Van Jefferson is questionable. So a lot of significant injuries for the Rams. For the Bengals, CJ Uzma is questionable with the same MCL strain.
He was saying how he's like, "Oh, I'm not missing this game. This is the biggest game of
No,
my
I don't
career."
think he's going to.
That's crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy, but I'm not surprised. There's no way, dude. You don't. If you can go at all, you go. It's the Super Bowl. What are you saving it for? What are you saving it for? If you can go, you go. Um, team stats, pretty doggone even, dude. Points per
Mm-hmm.
game, they're both at 27.1. Points allowed per game, the Rams are at 18.3. The Bengals are at 19.7. That was
So they
surprising to me. The
they
Bengals
both
defense played a lot better this season than I had originally thought. Like, I guess I didn't pay that close attention to their defense, but dang, they played well this season.
well, dude, you factor in as well. They've gotten housed in a couple games too this year. The
Right,
Bengals.
I
They
know.
got smashed by the Chargers, smashed by the Browns. And like you look at it on offense, they've gotten shut out and not shut out, but held to very low scoring in a lot of games this year too. And so them stats are even kind of deflated where
Right.
they're really it's really eye popping on how actually good they were in the regular season. It's just that their record was just kind of it was
Mhm.
I mean it was fine and it was good enough to win the division, but they went 10-7, so that's not like
Yeah.
something that's
Dude,
crazy.
these stats are so close all across the board. Total yards by each team: Rams 386.8, Bengals 385.2. They're just so close. And I don't think a lot of people would have guessed that. Like, if you look at the Rams and Bengals, I don't think people would have guessed this, dude.
Uh,
Passing yards are within five. Rams are five ahead with 287 to 282. Rushing yards, Rams 99, Bengals 102. It's
so
just
they're
so
right
close.
there.
Like, I don't think people would have like assumed that. And still, people are picking. I've seen a lot of chatter lately that this could be a boring game. The Rams could blow them out. I don't think so. I don't think there's any chance this is a blowout and doesn't at least get close towards the end or something. Like, the end of this game is going to be close.
And even if the Rams were to come out to a pretty substantial lead, the Bengals are just so explosive
Yeah,
that they could
exactly.
just
Well, look what
score
they did
so
to the
quickly.
Chiefs.
Yeah,
Look what
right,
they did to
right.
the Chiefs. What everybody else does to the Chiefs. So
That's very true. So I guess is there anything else you'd like to add
I mean,
about just kind of an intro to the game, or are we gonna get right into our
yeah. Well,
picks?
this is what's blowing my mind. The matchup predictor, and see, this comes down to guys on guys, right? That sounded weird. Um, the ESPN matchup predictor has 66% chance for the Rams to win, only 33 for the
Yeah,
Bengals.
no,
I just don't think that's right.
you would think it'd be closer to like so the Rams are obviously favored, but you think it'd be closer to like a 55-45, almost
I
50-50
don't
type
think that's.
deal.
I think people are getting this game all wrong, dude. I mean, obviously, bettors aren't because they're obviously putting a lot of money on the Bengals for the
Yeah.
spread to drop like that. But I don't think, I think people are missing the boat on this a lot because they just look at the Rams and they're like, well, they've been here before. They have veterans.
No, that's a good point because the Rams are obviously the more experienced team. They have a lot of players from their last Super Bowl run that are still on the roster. But you look at it like this as well. The Bengals' key pieces, especially in offense, were just in the They were in the championship game
Yeah,
sooner than within
yeah,
less time
yes,
than the Rams were.
you're right. In the national championship, three players from the Bengals already.
And so
So
they're
Joe
looking
Burrow,
at it.
Jamar Chase, and then their defensive lineman. I forget his name.
See, I think that they're looking at it as more of an age thing rather than an experience thing,
Right.
is what
And
it
dude,
is.
and here's the thing. It's obviously been shown Joe Burrow does not crack under pressure. He doesn't crack under pressure.
Quite literally, he got sacked 9 times.
Dude,
Quite literally.
and that's what people have been saying. So the defensive line, people are thinking that this Rams defensive line that is exceptional and their front seven is very good is going to be after Joe Burrow all day because his offensive line isn't great. But it doesn't matter. Joe Burrow is one of the only quarterbacks who's not affected by pressure. Or so far hasn't been. Tom Brady is. We've seen it. Patrick Mahomes in last year's Super Bowl clearly was. Joe Burrow has just not cracked under pressure ever.
Here's the one thing that is crazy to me about that is because so Joe Burrow every now and then he'll occasionally throw an interception when he gets rushed to throw the ball. But that happens to everybody, so like what are you going to do? Like you have to do something with the ball, or you're going to take a sack, or you're just going to try and maybe make a play. So he throws a couple picks, whatever. He doesn't fumble the ball like ever.
Mm-mm.
With how much he gets touched and tackled, he doesn't fumble the ball, which is kind of like a quarterback thing. Like after you get hit so many times, the ball's bound to squeak out at some point, and he just doesn't. So
remember, sorry, go ahead.
So I was gonna say, so if the Rams want to win this, on top of obviously getting immense pressure on him, getting sacks and pushing him behind the chains, I think they're gonna have to force a couple turnovers from this Bengals offense.
Remember when they said after Joe Burrow was drafted, they were talking about how small his hands were?
No,
you don't remember that?
But no, that kind of plays in. That's funny.
They were talking about how small his hands were, and he said, dude, he had the funniest tweet. I'm never gonna be able to find it, but he said, "Pray for me as I consider retirement from football, as I've been informed that my hands are too small."
Yeah. No, he's very intelligent on top of being physically gifted. And here's a question for you. So I've seen a lot of talk where if the Bengals win the Super Bowl, Joe Burrow is the number 1 quarterback in the NFL right now.
Right.
Why isn't that same argument going for Matt Stafford? I'm not saying it should be. I'm just kind of asking you.
Well,
what do you think that is?
I don't know. I don't know. Actually, I take that back. I don't know if I would say that Joe Burrow's the.
I've heard from a lot of people.
I would need to see another year because right now, it's a fair argument, but you also like, it's a lot to put him over both Mahomes and Allen already, and Rodgers, and Russell Wilson already.
No, right. It's definitely. I wouldn't put him as the best quarterback currently. I feel like you can't just because of lack of time in the league. So I agree with you in that standpoint. But I've seen not even just Bengals fans, but just NFL fans.
Right. Well,
like
so here's what's interesting. I get your point about Matthew Stafford. So you realize, Matthew Stafford in his first, 3 or 4 years, took the Lions to the playoffs. Now, granted, they lost, but he still took the Lions, who are a horrible franchise, in his first couple years to the playoffs. If he wins this game, he will have a higher playoff winning percentage than Aaron Rodgers and has gotten to as many Super Bowls. So it all depends on situation. Like Aaron Rodgers went to a great situation. Matthew Stafford went to a terrible situation. How do we know that their career arcs wouldn't have gone very differently?
Yep, that's definitely a good point. So that's why I'm really adamant about Matt Stafford. Because kind of like we talk about how Jimmy G was a professional, I think Matthew Stafford is the epitome of being a professional. He took crap every year in and year out in probably the most dysfunctional franchise in NFL history, if not the most. They're top 3. And he took that
absolutely
with all the expectations in the world on his shoulders because he was the number 1 high school quarterback, number 1 college quarterback, number 1 pick to an 0-6. Remember, the Lions were 0-16 the year they got, or the year before they got him.
How they got him.
And so it's just kind of like, what was I going to say? So it's kind of like he is just an all-around professional. He took that crap for over a decade, and now he's gotten put.
Go ahead. Well, he was the number 1 player coming out of high school in his class.
Yep.
The number one player coming out of college in his class went to Georgia. And then he was drafted to the Lions, who were awful. Like, think about that adjustment. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. That's why a lot of like Alabama quarterbacks seem to fail and Ohio State quarterbacks seem to fail in the NFL. Just because they're so used to structure and consistency in the team. And so when they get drafted high, like first round, high first round, and they go to these dysfunctional franchises, a lot of them fail because they don't know how to overcome it. So the fact that he was able to, and he didn't overcome it, but the fact that he was able to put up good enough numbers to keep getting extra contracts and keep, the Lions, like, they weren't bottom feeders while he was there. Like, they usually, they won about 6 to 10 games a year, somewhere in that boat from when he was on the team. And so the fact that he was just able to flip like that, like you mentioned, and just overcome that's pretty crazy. And now he got Now he got put in a good situation, and now he's in the Super Bowl. It's good.
You look at the best quarterbacks in the league. They all went to, like, it's not really a coincidence. They were all at, like, good run franchises. Like, you look at Drew Brees' his first couple years in the Chargers. He was good, but he wasn't great. And then he went to the Saints, and now he's a all-time Hall of Famer. You look at Josh Allen, went to a good situation in Buffalo with a good coach, Sean McDermott, and steady ownership. And now he's fantastic. Patrick Mahomes went to one of the best organizations in the league, run by, I forget who their owners are, but with Andy Reid as his coach. You look at Aaron Rodgers, went to Green Bay, which is a very well-run organization. In the past, Seattle's been pretty well-run. Pete Carroll was a good coach there for a long time, so that helped. Russell Wilson, all this stuff helps. Then you look at a guy like Baker Mayfield, who was, like, people thought would be a great quarterback, and he goes to the Browns. And it's really hard to overcome the Browns. Really hard.
Yeah, and a lot of it's like they didn't perform well enough in college to go that top pick, like you said. And so a lot of these guys are drafted out of the top 10, and sometimes even traded up for, like Mahomes' case, where teams just really want you and they give up a couple extra picks and just move up in the draft to get you. So it's not like it's a lot of it's just about situation.
Right. Yeah. All right. We ready to move on to picks?
I guess so. Just a quick mention here. So I guess I'm going to give because I'm 3 down on Joey, like we mentioned a couple episodes ago. So I pretty much have to pick against him, and then we did add that rule where if we get the MVP correct, we get an extra point. So
that only comes in if I lose all 3.
Right. So if it somehow happens that I tie him up after the game's over or whatever, the MVP will kind of be like a tiebreaker.
Right. But if I win one, that won't tie it. You know what I mean? Like if you get you know what I mean?
If I go 4-0 and you go 1-3 and you get the pick and I get the pick, yeah, that's fine. So that's fine.
Yeah. So that only comes in if I lose all 3 and you get all.
No, I get it. That's cool.
Okay.
So I guess we're gonna jump right in. I'll let you go first because I pretty much have to pick against you, but I think we're picking against each other anyway, so it works.
I can afford to be aggressive here because I got a bit of a cushion. So I'm going Bengals win. Bengals cover.
I know. Dude, they have this game perfect on the spread and the over-under. I think that's perfect.
48.5.
Dude,
typically, like, you would see Super Bowls go under, but the over's been doing pretty good this playoffs.
Over the last 10 Super Bowls, it's 5-5 on the over-under hitting.
All right, I'm going the over.
No, dude, that's dumb. You have to go under, bro.
No, I'm going the over.
Now I have to sit there the whole time and worry.
Bengals cover. Bengals money line. Bengals over. Let's go, baby. Or game over.
Oh, the Bengals single-handedly will hit the over.
Dude, that'd be so hot.
Man, that's dumb. Because now I have to sit there and just like worry the whole time.
You could pick the over and just admit defeat.
Or I could just pick the under and not worry about it and just hope for the best. So, funny enough, because I said I was going to have to pick against Joey, I was going to pick the Rams anyway. I think that the teams are so similar in every single position, except for that defensive line versus offensive line matchup, like which is kind of the whole talk that everybody's talking about. The Rams have possibly the best defense, no, probably the best defensive tackle in NFL history. They have another Hall of Fame quarterback or pass rusher on one side of the defensive line, and they have another one who's I don't want to say he's like a Pro Bowler, but he's kind of that caliber on the other side, Leonard Floyd and Von Miller. So I think that's going to be a lot for the Bengals to handle. And on top of that, I keep talking about Jalen Ramsey, even though he's been getting torched in the playoffs. I think he's going to you have to show up in the Super Bowl, right?
No.
Like, if you're the best.
Guess who's going to show up in the Super Bowl? Jamar's going to show up in the Super Bowl.
Well, that's true. But, like, just think about it like this. You're the best in the world at a position in a sport. You have to show your worth in the Super Bowl.
All right.
You have to. Like, he just,
right.
If he wants to talk the talk and be so cocky, you got to back it up.
Dude, he can try. He's going to try.
So we'll see. So I'm hoping that, Bengals getting a couple sacks, couple extra turnovers, and not being able to rely on Jamar Chase to go off for 150 yards.
Don't worry about it.
Will be enough for the Rams to win. And obviously the cover. I gotta pick against them. So I think like God, that's so dumb that you picked the over, because I was thinking like a 27-23 final, which just sounds right to me. So now it's gonna have to be like, what's not super weird numbers that would hit the under?
24-21.
24-20, I guess.
Something like that.
I guess maybe something around there sounds right. Who knows? Maybe there'll be like a
24-27 just feels so right.
I think it's going to be like a 6-3 final. No, I can't. 7-3.
9-6.
7-3 final. The Rams win.
3-2 final. Evan
no.
McPherson, 69-yard game winner. 3-2 final score.
So just to reinstate, I'm going Rams win, Rams cover, and the under to hit. Unfortunately, that's the one that I really don't agree with, but I just have to go with.
All right. So are we picking an MVP from each team?
So we did that a couple episodes ago, but I guess should we just add it on here just to kind of go back over it?
Because that'll just go along with like our winner. You know what I mean?
Right. You know what? That's fair. So we'll pick the MVP of each team.
Okay. So.
Well, okay.
I'm gonna switch it up.
You probably don't even have to like.
I'm gonna switch it up. I'm gonna go Joe Burrow.
Okay.
You're not gonna like what I do here. Are
you picking it for the Rams too?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's fine.
Matthew Stafford. Joe Burrow, Matthew Stafford. I picked Aaron Donald last time, but
that's what I said I wanted anyway. You remember that? I wanted Aaron Donald. Like,
yeah, I know,
it's
but
the safer
I just
pick.
feel like if they win it, they're just gonna give it to Matthew Stafford.
It's the safer pick. You're right, but and on top of that, now that I have to have the under hit, it makes sense that I would have to have like not the quarterback.
Right.
So he's got Joe Burrow, Matt Stafford, both quarterbacks for the team. It makes sense. It's a good pick and it's a good safety blanket, so I respect it. Or actually, I don't respect it, but whatever.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
So for my MVP for the Rams, I mean, I probably don't even have to make one for the Bengals. Well, I really shouldn't, but like, whatever. So my MVP for the Rams is Aaron Donald. I think he's just going to be too explosive up front. I wouldn't be surprised if one of the other pass rushers were to get it. Say they force like an extra turnover or something like that and get a couple sacks, or just something like that. It could happen. So just a safer bet in the defensive line, I'm going Aaron Donald. On top
You
of
can
that,
pick whoever you want then for the Bengals. So you could pick Joe Burrow too.
that's true. I could do that, couldn't I?
Yeah, 'cause it doesn't matter.
Well, to keep things
Unless the
interesting.
Rams win and Joe Burrow gets
So-
the Super Bowl MVP, but
So last time I said it's kind of dumb or I just said something kind of dumb the last time we did these. I said, who did I say was going to win it? One of them two. I don't remember if it was Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins. I don't know. I just thought that I don't think Jamar Chase would get it if Joe Burrow didn't get it. But it's kind of the same concept where like the receiver's probably not going to get it if the quarterback doesn't get it. So I'm actually going to go Joe Mixon. He might maybe get a couple extra touchdowns. Like, you remember when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl against the 49ers? I think we were watching that together. I said that Damian Williams should have won it over Mahomes.
right?
Because Mahomes really played not great for like 3 quarters. And Damian Williams was consistently running the ball and putting him in the end zone.
Well, I thought Raheem Mostert was going to get it for most of the game.
Yeah, well, until Jimmy G missed the throw, and yeah.
Good off.
But so I'm going to go Joe Mixon, because if the quarterback doesn't get it, I think more likely than not, it's just going to be like a couple of rushing touchdowns that might give him the slight edge. Because let's just say Joe Burrow doesn't throw a touchdown and Joe Mixon gets like 2. I think you probably don't give it to Joe Burrow. And he hasn't thrown a lot of touchdowns in this playoffs. He's only thrown 4 through 3 games.
Go shiesty, baby. Don't worry about it.
Okay. So I guess that kind of covers the Super Bowl pick.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Dude, it's going to be fun.
I'm just desperately hoping for a good game. I am desperately hoping for a good game. And we've gotten a lot of good games out of this playoff so far.
Yeah, there is an argument that this is the best playoffs in
Just one more
history.
Oh, this has been great. The first weekend, wild card weekend sucked. But
even you think about it, the Bengals-Raiders game went to the final play on 4th and whatever to tie it for the Raiders. The Cowboys and 49ers had that really weird finish, and I think the rest were all kind of blowouts, weren't they?
They were, yeah.
But even like the Bills game was fun to watch, even though it was a blowout.
The divisional round was the greatest.
That was wild card.
Yeah. No. I'm saying divisional round, though, was the greatest weekend of football I've ever seen in my life. I would, shoot, seriously, if I could get that like one more time, I'd be okay just dying.
That spirit and heart, man. So I guess if you don't have anything else, should we just move into slide into the NBA trade talks now?
Yeah.
So now that the deadline's over with, we kind of have a final grouping on big trades. So I think that, I guess let me ask you, what's the couple in here that kind of you think is actually impactful for the league and possible championship runs for some teams?
Right. So obviously Harden for Simmons and Seth Curry and somebody else.
Dude,
I think
the Nets got a haul for that.
They did. But you just got to look at like the 76ers got the star. And if James Harden's happy on that team or whatever, they are now squarely in title contention.
Yeah,
for this
year.
Sure. Squarely in title contention.
There's an argument that they might be the favorites now because no team in the East has been playing consistent enough that they just kind of ring off as locks, kind of like the Suns and Warriors. Not even the Warriors anymore. They've just been weird lately. But the Suns in the West are kind of on that verge of like almost being a lock. They're very good, and the West is very inconsistent.
And here's the deal. Harden and Embiid, I think they fit very well together.
Agreed,
I think they'll fit exceptionally well together. They both can shoot, at least somewhat. Harden's a pretty good shooter. Harden can distribute the ball a lot. Like, they're both kind of ball dominant, but in different ways. Like, Embiid's not going to handle the ball out on the perimeter, right? Also, Harden won't clog up the lane for Embiid like Simmons did. They'll be able to space. Yeah, I think they fit very well together. And I think as long as both of them stay, like, happy, quote unquote, I think it'll go very well.
Well, on top of that, so kind of like how the Nets played. So when they did have all their superstars, they more or less had Harden playing a lot of minutes when Kyrie and Katie weren't on the floor. Just because he's able to single-handedly run an offense, distribute it to the wide open guy and get his own shot, whether it be through the free throw line, step backs, and he's even he's pretty decent at finishing.
Right.
And he's lefty too, so that's not as common for defenders in the NBA to play against. So Harden just all around is like a great offensive team just presence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Joel Embiid is the same way, where both of them on the floor is such a problem because you have to commit so much on the perimeter for Harden, but you have to commit so much in the interior for Embiid that even when they're not playing together, you completely have to flip your defensive schemes to try.
I think it'll fit excellent. I think it's funny. Daryl Morey he's the general manager for the 76ers, isn't he?
Yeah. Harden likes him.
Yeah,
that's one of the big reasons he wanted to go there.
That's good, and I think you're right. I think it makes the outlook for the Nets a lot better because they got some young pieces. They got Seth Curry, who I think helps them a lot.
Yeah, it sucks the Sixers had to get rid of him. That's a big loss, I think, for the Sixers.
Yeah, but
he's very elite shooter, but you'd rather have Harden.
Right, you're replacing him with Harden, who's also a good shooter and does a lot more. They also got Andre Drummond, which I don't. Whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Were picks involved in it too?
Yeah, I think they got 2 firsts. I think that.
Ooh.
Yeah, the Nets got a lot. I don't know how that Drummond trade is great for the Nets. I think being able to get that elite rebounder in the inside.
The difference.
I think it's big for the Nets, especially because he's more athletic and youthful than DeAndre Jordan. I mean, he's not the best interior defender, but Andre Drummond overall is a good defender because even though he's a big man, he can guard the perimeter as well. So I think
we ever find out why Simmons was mad at the 76ers?
I don't know, because they wanted him to practice, I think.
Well, that's good because the Nets don't make their players even play games. So
no. Think of it. Okay. I guess let me ask you quick. Who do you think is more likely to make the finals now after this trade between the two teams?
The 76ers.
Yeah.
Especially if Durant's not healthy.
Well, dude. So now they have Kyrie and Ben Simmons on the same team in that same locker room.
Dude, we were just talking. Didn't I bring this up a week or two ago?
I don't know, maybe the last episode. But those might be the 2 most toxic players in the NBA. Especially superstars in the NBA.
Yeah, we just talked about this.
And Kevin Durant, even though he's great, he's so petty. He's so petty.
Kevin Durant went from having the most low maintenance superstar point guard maybe ever to having the 2 most high maintenance superstar point guards.
Yeah.
They're so high maintenance.
I understand when you're the Nets why you make the trade, especially if Harden is unhappy, you got to switch stuff up anyway. So it's possible that maybe if not this year, that next year they might be able to put things together and go on a run. But for the season, and the Nets right now are the 8th seed.
Yeah.
That's bad. Remember when we were saying that the Nets are better off getting the 8th seed? So they can get Kyrie in the playoffs. They can get Kyrie in the playoffs more than they won't. But yeah, I think it's looking very promising for the Sixers. And if I'm being honest, I wouldn't mind James Harden winning a ring.
I didn't think he ever would. I thought him and Russell Westbrook were the guys that never would. But he played a lot differently in Brooklyn than he did in Houston. Where in Houston, he was the only guy. So he was just jacking up shots and his usage was just ridiculously high, all-time high. Similarly with Russell Westbrook. And they just weren't efficient in the playoffs. So I thought those would be the 2 guys who wouldn't win a finals. I have a lot more faith in James Harden to win a finals, especially partnered with another superstar, than I ever would Westbrook. Because Westbrook just doesn't know any other way how to play. Dude, Harden can shoot and distribute, No,
it just all depends on. I think this season's been good for Harden because as of recent, I guess I can't say this as much, but at the start of the season, they tried cracking down on the flopping and the stupid, unorthodox shooting when they're trying to draw fouls, like Trey Young and Harden are kind of known for, where they just throw stuff up and try and draw a foul.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? So I think that's good for his playoff aesthetics, because the way he plays is he just tries and does stuff to get fouls called, right? And that's how he scores, because it's very efficient. He's a very good free throw shooter. You don't get tired shooting free throws, really. So he's able to play superb minutes. And so I think that kind of that adjust for him is really good for the playoffs, because he more or less has to play like actual scoring normally is in the NBA. So I think that's good. So it all depends on if he comes through in the playoffs or not.
Right. All right. So let's run through some other trades here quick. Kristaps Porzingis is heading to the Wizards for a package that includes Spencer Dinwiddie. The Celtics are acquiring Daniel Theis from the Rockets for Dennis Schroeder. The Bucks, Pistons, Clippers, and Kings were involved in a 4-team deal that included Dante DiVincenzo and Marvin Bagley. The Raptors sent Goran Dragic to the Spurs for Thaddeus Young, and then
let me just say quick on
I think, or they're doing
really.
Yeah, they're doing a buyout.
Yeah. Okay. So for the Bucks in Piston Clipper Kings trade, so obviously right now the only team in contention is the Bucks. The Clippers might if they get their stars back, but we've seen that like they don't mesh together well in the playoffs. So for now, I'm kind of throwing them out the window. So let's just say the Bucks are the only kind of contender in that trade.
Mm-hmm.
They got Serge Ibaka.
No, I like that. I do like that a lot.
I think that's a very good pick. Because he's adjusted well where he can still guard the interior,
right?
But he's also good at spacing the floor, and that's what the Bucks need is floor spacers for Giannis to go to work.
Because if you look at it, they don't really need depth at guard play anymore. Because they already got they already have Grayson Allen and
Grayson Allen's been playing very well. Drew Holiday's obviously.
Drew Holiday, right? Yeah. So they don't really need help at guard play. So I think that's a really good trade for the Bucks. The Clippers, I don't really whatever.
Yeah, I mean we don't know until they're healthy.
Yeah. So another big trade. So this happened a little while ago. The Kings acquired Sabonis. So that explains why they traded Marvin Bagley. Like, they didn't really need him anymore. Yeah. Also, just really hasn't played great.
No, he really didn't live up to it. I mean, he's like okay at scoring in the post, but that's about it.
Right. The Knicks landed Cam Reddish.
I do like that trade.
That's pretty good.
I actually don't like it from the Hawks standpoint though, because they're kind of in the playoff mix.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that.
Like Kevin Knox really hasn't been much in the NBA so far. Like Cam Reddish has definitely been a proven shooter and somewhat scorer. Kevin Knox might be a little bit better on defense, but like that's not what the Hawks are. They're pretty much out there to kind of shoot you off the floor.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
So
yes, do you want
winners and losers of the NBA trade deadline? I think technically Ben Simmons was a winner. The 76ers, I would say, are winners.
I think the Cavs got a good landing in Karis LeVert. Karis LeVert, because the Cavs, I don't think they're going to go on a championship run this year, but they're definitely up and coming.
Right.
They have some young stars. And Karis LeVert is like 27 or something like that. And so it adds a little experience, and I think he's a good player.
I agree. I like that for the Cavs. The Lakers, okay, quick, we got about a minute left to get your thought on. The Lakers didn't make a trade. What do you think on that? I mean, they're just done.
I just don't think they could. I genuinely don't think they could make a trade unless they wanted to trade AD.
Yeah, I agree.
But he's kind of like that X factor that you need for the playoffs.
Right, exactly. Yep. So we're out of time for today. That was the podcast. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at JL All Ball Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube and give us a rating. We'll be back here on Tuesday with a Super Bowl review.
Peace.